Hi guys. So here's your review video for your test Friday, and I'm giving it to you Monday. So there is quite literally no excuse to not be prepared for this. It's a one chapter test. Key terms are on it, all of them matching, okay, from chapter 25. And I'm giving you this so far in advance. So remember our little post-its that we're filling out in class, okay? This whole idea of test is Friday, right? If you can't make it Friday, I will allow some students to take it on Thursday morning. So you can come in at 8:30, take it Thursday morning. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till that Wednesday and Thursday we come back from break to take it, okay? The second thing you should have wrote on your post-it is the Cold War continued. Key terms is due the 22nd. And we are testing the Cold War continued chapter on the 25th, which is a Monday. And then we're going to carry on with chapters 26, 27, 28, 29. So that's what you should have had on your post-it. Let's go ahead. Let's get started. First thing you're going to see on the test is all your key terms. They're all there. It's going to be matching. Next is really like almost chronologically the order of the Cold War. So heading into this test, you need to know the Yalta Agreement, Yalta Conference, and Potsdam Conference, and how they're playing a role in the cause of the Cold War. How is this Soviet sphere being formed? And it goes back to those conferences. You have an excerpt from the Truman Doctrine, which is a speech. So you got to know what's going on with the Truman Doctrine. Make sure you know that. You have a question. You have a couple of questions about the Berlin airlift. Know its definition, but also know the story. I'm actually going to cover that on Tuesday. So you know the definition of it, like what is it, but you also have to know like the story. You have some key termy questions surrounding the Berlin airlift, the Truman Doctrine, I already talked about that, the Marshall Plan, and NATO, the NATO alliance. So like the story of how one is kind of causing the next. So knowing the story, but also like knowing them individually, what they are is important. Make sure you do that. And those are questions that you can't afford to get wrong. You have a question on China. On how we stand in the conflict with the story concerning how they rise to communism. So that's something we're definitely going to cover on Tuesday. I'll reiterate it on Thursday or Wednesday and Thursday. But knowing the story of the Civil War, of China, and how some groups will take Truman's side, other groups won't. So again, we're not always going to be 100% into things. But remember, when we learn the Cold War, the Munich analogy, if we don't do it, somebody else going to, and the somebody else that going to is the USSR. And are they using and taking advantage of despotism to push communism, right? Can we afford to do that or to allow that to happen? No, we can't. Because the last time we stood idly by, we had World War I and World War II, right? Remember, communism is the new Hitler. So in that Munich analogy, we are constantly, in the mindset of that with all of these presidents. And we're going to take each president and each occurrence, and we're going to study how they deal with the Munich analogy. Okay, that'll help you with China. You have an excerpt from the NATO treaty, and you just have to like read it, and there's a question associated with it. Hopefully, you don't get it wrong. Make sure you know what the Warsaw Pact is. And now we're getting into Korea. All right. So I want to know, we got to know the story of Korea, how Truman responds to the invasion of South Korea. I got an awesome little timeline of all the things that are going on that could help you on other questions on the test, which I just saw, if you use it the right way. And you're just going to have a question about, how Truman is seeking to solve his way of Munich analogy, right? So each president has their own little conflicts. With Truman, it's Greece, it's Turkey, it's China, it's Korea, and those are the ones that we're going to focus the most on this week. But he has a goal, right? Make sure we know what his goal is in his doctrine. They have a question on the Munich analogy itself. Super easy question. Don't get it wrong. I'm going to be repeating it all week. You have a document that you have to read, and the question pertains to the information in the document. So read carefully. You have a question on the splitting of the Democratic Party. Okay, we're going to get the Dixiecrats and the Democrats. So the Democratic Party is splitting in 48. And you have 2 questions assessing that. And we're going to kind of shift into the Red Scare. So this is it's into section 2 and section 3 of the chapter. We're going to hit it we'll hit it tomorrow, we'll hit it Wednesday, I'll review it Thursday. So questions on the Red Scare, how Truman develops in the Red Scare. You have questions about Senator McCarthy and what McCarthyism is. You have a question on how Republicans are responding to the Red Scare and to the Munich analogy to the Cold War versus Democrats. You have a map that you have to look at. It shows NATO, it shows Warsaw Pact countries. So you remember you have NATO countries, and you have the response with Warsaw, and we'll cover that in class, absolutely. And it's just a map that you're looking at. And then we're shifting into the early days of Vietnam. And you have a question about Ho Chi Minh. Make sure you know who he is. He's a very, very, very important person. You got to know him. And again, y'all, like, we start talking about Vietnam as early as Truman's presidency because it goes all the way back. All right, now I'm shifting to Eisenhower and his doctrines. You got to know what his doctrine was about. You have to know in what countries is he using the CIA to get information. You have to know the story of the Suez Canal crisis. And we're going to definitely get in depth with that. And I have an awesome video. A lot of these, you guys, I have videos that I've uploaded to the PowerPoint. We're going to watch them in class, but they're going to be a great point of study for you, especially the Suez Canal video. So this question really covers the story. You got to know what's going down and what happened. All right, now I'm shifting to Kennedy. You have a question on a lot with Kennedy, don't you? We've got questions concerning the Cuban Missile Crisis. You have questions concerning the building of the Berlin Wall. You have questions on the Bay of Pigs. So they're not, in some cases, they're key termy because you do have to know like what these events are, but the stories, they each have their own story. And I'm going to get very in depth with that. So just make sure if I give you a situation, you know how it played out and the severity of these events. Okay. And I'll cover that for sure. We have a question concerning the space race. So make sure you understand what the space race is. More questions on Kennedy and Vietnam. And that's the test. Kennedy and Vietnam are like the last 2 questions are Kennedy and Vietnam. So we roll through Truman's presidency. We're rolling through Eisenhower's presidency. You've got questions on the Red Scare. You've got questions on Vietnam through Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy's presidency. So I'm going to pepper that stuff in. You have questions pertaining to how Kennedy's dealing with the Cuban Missile Crisis, the building of the Berlin Wall, the Bay of Pigs invasion. And that's it, really. It's not too bad. It's just one chapter, quick and easy, good stuff. And again, I'm going to talk about all of this stuff throughout the week as I lecture. Fingers crossed, I actually finish early. And Thursday, you can use a lot of time to watch this video and copy your notes down and be able to prepare. Again, all the key terms are on there. If you do find yourself finishing early and being prepared, you can go ahead and work on the Cold War continued. Yeah, Cold War continued. Key terms. Remember, the key terms are here. Right? All of these, if you can't find them in the book, you can go ahead and Google them. Make sure you put them in order. Each president, I have a number of how many key terms you should have per president. That's going to be due the Friday after we get back from spring break, the 22nd. We will then test on Monday, and then we'll pick up where we left off with chapters 26, 27, 28, 29. Happy studying.